Hello, everyone. Welcome to our final session of We Give Summit for day one. What better way to kick it or to end us today than hearing from youth philanthropists? So thank you all for joining today for a young giver's journey to responsive philanthropy. Please note that closed captioning is available. It can be enabled at the bottom of your screen today. My name is Melissa Vargas. I am the Operations and Events Coordinator at Philanthropy Together. Philanthropy Together is a global initiative to grow and strengthen the field of collective giving with programming like We Give Summit. Today, we're really excited to discuss the responsive philanthropy work that the new 3R students are doing and their vision for racial justice in the US. Throughout today's session, make sure you engage in the chat. We encourage you to share your feedback following this session using our 2-question poll that will be launched at the end. Before we get started, I want to quickly share that we'll be doing a random drawing of one participant here today to win a book by one of our speakers at We Give Summit. And so that will be announced at the end of the session, so make sure you stay tuned. With that, I'm happy to introduce today's moderators, Dr. Starita Ansari from the new 3Rs and Joy Webb from the Community Investment Network.
Thank you for joining us. I'm Dr. Starita Boyce Ansari, founder and edutech innovator of the New 3Rs. And the New 3Rs stands for Through the Art of Social Justice Storytelling, we build relationships and a sense of responsibility. So May 2020, COVID-19 allowed the world to see what it's like to be Black in the United States. All of us witnessed George Floyd being lynched. In that July, the new 3Rs began teaching Black history, critical race theory, and responsive philanthropy to families of 6th to 10th graders in North America. We teach the contributions Blacks have given the world before and after 1619 from our historian, Danny Gore. He has 10,000 Black history artifacts. Well, Sherry Young and Dr. Leifman, they lead the mindfulness conversations. In those conversations, they help families understand racism is systemic. We also publish the racial justice values of our 6th to 10th graders, giving our children a platform to teach others the impact of racism in agriculture, in education, and other systems. Also, our students, they write letters to judges and politicians, asking them questions about racial inequities in the USA. See, that's civics, that's compassion, that's democracy. And those are the values we want to instill in our children. Families tell me the new 3Rs is a safe space to discuss racism and learn Black history, because we can't have those conversations at work or in school. The new 3Rs children are the youngest racial justice philanthropists, awarding grants to Black-founded organizations in Africa, the Caribbean, and the USA. The new 3R's Youth Responsive Philanthropy Giving Circle is led by Joy Webb. And today you're going to learn from America's youngest responsive philanthropists who have been donating their time, talent, and treasures since junior high school. And with that, Ms. Joy Webb.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for introducing and sharing a little bit about the new 3Rs. I am Joy Webb. I am a program director for Community Investment Network, a network of African American and donor of color giving circles, a national network. I also have a giving circle in Atlanta, Georgia called the Circle of Joy. I'm a giver, and I know that philanthropists are all ages. And I have been blessed to be a part of the journey of these young philanthropists today. I am excited for you all to hear about them, because this is not, I could tell you lots about me, but it really doesn't matter. We need to know about what's happening now and what our future holds from these great young leaders. So we're going to jump into it, get right to learning a little bit about what they're doing and how they are being responsive philanthropists in the world. And I'm going to kick it off and let them tell you a little bit about themselves. So this will be a fun journey. We're going to have a conversation. I'm going to start it off with Amira. And I would love for you to share who you are and a little bit about yourself, and then we'll just hop right in. So the mic is to you, Amara.
So hi, my name is Amira Archibald, and I started my journey at the New 3Rs when I was 13, and it has been 3 years since. I'm now 16, and I am a junior in one of New York City's independent high schools. I have a lot of interest in business, fashion, and racial justice, and because I wanted to try to find a way to combine 3 of those passions, I have an idea to start a fashion-based social enterprise where a certain amount of my proceeds would go towards pro-Black organizations, whether if those are organizations that are specifically targeting the betterment of Black people in America or focus on issues that that a lot of Black people in America are disproportionately impacted by. And of course, I would like to expand globally, but I think it's really important to start locally. And on top of that too, because I have a lot of interest in business as a subject in general, and I just want to make sure that I can create more equitable spaces within business, especially from a racial standpoint. And luckily, I'm so proud to say this, I recently just landed an internship at the New York Stock Exchange because of my interest in business and economics and stuff like that. And before my journey with the New 3Rs, I was a dancer at the Ailey School for 13 years. So dance is a huge part of my life. I unfortunately had to quit because it was a very big commitment, but I was dancing there when I was 2 years old and I quit at 15. And on top of that, I've always been interested in philanthropy-based action. And the first time I ever engaged in philanthropy-based action was for my preschool's fundraiser, which was partnering with a local public school for their school's library.
Thank you. You are wonderful. Like you haven't even told it. We hadn't even started talking. And Amira, I know that you are wonderful. And I'm sorry, I'm nervous because I messed up your name. So that's my bad. But I would love for you to tell me a little bit about what is racial equity work that you want to do as a responsive philanthropist. And you learned this because of the new 3Rs.
So within the curriculum that I was exposed to within the New 3Rs, it isn't only just based on learning history, although that is a huge part of it because it's important to understand and dissect different systems as to why they are, and that's possible through history, specifically Black history in this case, because it is a very pro-Black organization. From there, after learning history and legislation and stuff, we've then been able to respond to current injustices from a retroactive and proactive standpoint. And overall, just knowing the way in terms of why different systems work in the way that they do and how they intersect with each other, and just understanding the history behind racism, specifically, once again, anti-Blackness. It's really been extremely important, and it's highlighted the fact of how responsive philanthropy is how philanthropy should work in general, as how within any type of problem solving, you would want to get to the root of issues. And because of the emphasis on history, I've then been able to, with my peers, tackle and brainstorm different ways in terms of how we can respond to current injustices that we face today.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Based on, we all know racism exists. And could you tell a little bit about what you've seen and felt and why conversations are so important and Black history that you learned in the new 3Rs and your work as a responsive philanthropist is important?
So I could answer that question on several different levels from my own personal experience, as I am a Black girl at a predominantly white independent school in New York City. So starting off with that, I remember feeling a bit insecure with my racial identity because of the way that some of my peers were treating me. A lot of the kids in my grade were stereotyping me and labeling me as aggressive, despite the fact that I had never interacted with some of them and was never even in their classes, which is very appalling and mind-boggling to me. And on top of that, I remember having a conversation with some students in which one of them and a few other people had called me a hot Cheeto girl. And when I was talking about how that was not appropriate, because basically a hot Cheeto girl is just like a loud, like angry Black woman stereotype that within our generation, at least, it's just basically looked down upon a lot. Their response was, oh, like, I just called you that because you're laughing a lot and you eat, which was weird because that's something that a lot of people do. And on top of that, it was just extremely negative because I just like to have a good time. So just being judged because of the way I present myself, and even because of the fact that I had never engaged in conversations with some of these people, yet I was still being faced with racism, was definitely something that impacted me for the time being. Luckily, I'm able to say that now it's not something that really gets to me a lot, but just knowing that, I definitely have had a lot of extended empathy for other people who have similar experiences. But even just from beyond a personal standpoint, I will say there have been different times where I've been able to use my learnings from historical events and plug them into recent events. For example, January 6th of 2022, I remember this was a huge event that a lot of people can recall as well, but the Capitol raiding in response to some people being angry about the fact that Trump lost the election and cause of unconstitutionality. I just remember being extremely appalled by the fact that that was even allowed to happen. And just as different events have unfolded, or different information regarding the event has unfolded after the initial incident, just the fact that that was even allowed to happen, even though the event was somewhat known of happening, there was definitely a possibility that the government was aware about it. And just the fact that that was even allowed to happen, like, there was not a lot of pushback. Some people that were at the National Guard were even on the same standpoint of some of the people that were engaging in the raiding of the Capitol. And then just comparing that to about like to the Black Lives Matter protests that were happening in 2020, especially in response to George Floyd. I just remember even engaging in some of the protests myself, which were completely peaceful, thankfully, in terms of the ones that I engaged in. Just the body language of police officers, just seeing how they were clutching onto their weapons or their batons and stuff like that. It was just really sad to see that there's a huge double standard, and that's also something that's not new at all, as within this country, every time there has been outcry of racial justice from Black people, it's been met with police brutality. And yeah, and on top of that too, also from a more global standpoint, I remember learning about the Polish government not providing or refusing to provide aid to some Black families that were looking to seek refuge within the Ukrainian-Russian war. That was definitely another huge standpoint where I was able to really think like, wow, like these are different issues that we're all impacted by and also blindsided by and desensitized to as well. So just being able to plug in different levels of my personal life experiences, experiences that other people are impacted by, and just like I opened up with just a lot of layered issues where I've really been like, wow, this is definitely something that has to be addressed. And also within different issues that we've been learning about here within the new 3Rs, within some of the people that we're helping with our philanthropy work. Specifically, one that really stood out to me was a community that we're helping in Zimbabwe, as they have a lack of water, and they don't really have access to nearby schools, which was definitely something that we all see as a human right, as it's commonly seen as a human right as well. Just knowing that there's people who are not having the same access to the things that I'm having, and then also being able to understand the ways that into how that intersects with racism, not only just from a standpoint of the US, but also because racism is a global thing. It's just been really something that I've been keeping in mind. And also on top of how it's important to address the root causes of issues, that's definitely been something that I've been thinking about in the back of my mind this entire time.
Thank you. You have people wanting you to run for office in the chat. So you just keep on doing what you're doing. How about that? I would just love to hear like your compassion story for Black people around the world. We learned that in the new 3Rs. We learned about history. We learned about what is happening around the world. I would love to hear your thoughts, a little bit of your thoughts.
So I guess my compassion story, like I was just mentioning, it's been definitely a mixture from my personal life, but also just because pro-Blackness is something that my family has installed within me. So I guess just basically like wanting to address racial inequities has definitely been something that's deeply engraved in my heart. And then from there on, seeing different instances in real life where I've been like, wow, like this is definitely a real issue. I feel like that's definitely where my compassion stems from. And also just knowing that racism itself, race is a political category that does not actually exist. And to think that something that's not actually tangible has become something that is tangible, that's something that has to be addressed. The fact that something that has been brainstormed for the means of economic well-being and profit, and it's become an issue that's psychological, still economical, is that's the entire purpose of race, and it has flooded every last possible subject or industry that I can think of. That's something that has to be addressed, and hence my compassion for racial equity, specifically for Black people.
You are amazing, young lady. So thank you so much for sharing a little bit of your story and why you do what you do as a responsive philanthropist. I am clapping for you here. I am going to pass the mic because we have other amazing panelists. And next we're going to hear from Blake. Blake, can you tell me a little bit about yourself? We have an audience that is eager to hear what's happening with you.
Hi, my name is Blake Ansari. I'm a junior at Murray Hill Academy. I am America's youngest philanthropist and founder of Blake Mini Library. At the age of 6 on Valentine's Day, February of 2014, I began donating books in rainbow-colored libraries built by Home Depot to homeless children in San Francisco and New York City. After reading a newspaper about a homeless girl, Dasanu, who lived in my neighborhood at a very young age, which got me invested into their different living conditions compared to mine. Throughout middle school and high school, I would collect books from my friends in schools and would give them to homeless shelters with the slogan, "You will go to college." I believe that everyone deserves the right to an education no matter where you are. So I was giving them fun books so they could learn and enjoy themselves. I recently started giving them Legos to foster homes and homeless shelters since it opened the fun side, because who doesn't want to play with Legos, right? I was noticed by Council Member Gerald Brewer and Michelle Obama. Sadly, COVID-19 forced me to stop Blake Mini Library for the time being due to safety and other factors, but I will love to continue my work in the future. My favorite subjects in school are science and English. I love writing plays and stories. In fact, I convinced my school to do a school-wide play production, and that has been more fun than ever. I am enrolled in the Lang 7-year science program at the Museum of Natural History for kids who adore science. It opened my eyes to the world of science and the possible paths that I could follow in the future, which is why in college, I want to pursue a career in the sciences to continue to follow my passion of combating racism deeply rooted in the healthcare systems. In school, I am the captain of my STEP team, co-leader of the Black Student Union, a member of book club and Green Team, and currently running for class president in student government, fingers crossed. At the age of 12, I joined the New 3Rs as one of America's youngest philanthropists, investing in Black lives. I'm 15 now, and so far it has been amazing.
You are amazing, Blake. Already looking at Ivy League schools. I know that from an insider's point of view. But let's hear a little bit more. I mean, this is why we know that you all are amazing. You all are doing so much more besides just being responsive philanthropists. But Blake, could you share why should youth learn CRT, Black history, and responsive philanthropy? How do they go hand in hand?
Well, first, critical race theory is basically stating that racial bias is rooted in social and legal institutions, since they were built primarily for and by white people. That is a social construct, that it's not a bias individually, but it's instead embedded and deep-rooted in the legal systems. It's important to know about. It opened a lot of things in my mind personally. For example, in my school, recently we read and discussed the play A Raisin in the Sun by Lorraine Hansberry, which was written about her own experience growing up in Chicago, which talks about her family living in a poor, predominantly Black neighborhood, planning on using their saved money to move into a new house in the suburbs. Of course, the white people in the neighborhood didn't like this decision, but in the play, it discussed the concept of redlining, which was the practice of denying services like loans and insurance, or increasing costs for residents in an area to force Blacks and other minorities into a particular poor area to keep them controlled. That is systemic racism. To keep Blacks in one area, which on maps were marked red, so people would know the areas were marked as dangerous or only populated with minorities and have fewer resources. If a lot of minorities started moving into these white areas, they would start turning yellow. And white people would start moving out of those areas again because they didn't want to be in a Black dangerous area. Learning about this was extremely important to me because I wasn't really aware of this. I wasn't aware of those methods that was tied into the legal systems on the topic of redlining. This ties into critical race theory and the importance of understanding Black history and the racist systems that violate our democracy. More the youth should know about these things so we could be aware of our dark past, since even to this day, it still gets pushed aside or hidden by the media. Racism is such a deep-rooted problem, but it needs to be looked at now, and only then can we move forward when we accept the past.
That is so powerful, so powerful. With that being said, what is your racial justice vision for America?
Well, this is kind of a hard question. Normally, I would say that my racial justice vision for America is peace. Peace no matter race or background, that everyone can have access to the same opportunities and be treated the same, which is how it should be. That's what freedom is about. But I believe that America will never be peaceful 100%. There's always going to be a group of people who will cause dysfunction. There will always be some people that still hold on to those old discriminatory ideologies, even hundreds of years in the future. That's something we may have to accept, but what I won't accept is still to this day face racism out in the open with no punishment or punishment equal to the crime, whether it's police brutality, segregation laws, or purposeful miscarriage of justice. I want to be able to let my future kids have fun by themselves and not be afraid of them getting stopped by the police or being attacked by a random stranger. This is why I continue to fight for justice and make sure that every racist occurrence doesn't go by quietly, since in order for us to have a better future, we must take accountabilities for the evils of racism. That's how you solve a problem. You apologize and recognize the fact that you were wrong and take these steps to right your wrongs. Whether it's laws eradicating old racist ones that are still standing, that supported racism, or just simply making public statements to show your support. The little things do matter in these situations, and only then could we take steps forward to a better and brighter future for everyone that will truly make America a great nation and a nation that I could stand by and call my own.
I want to say preach, because you've just spoken truth to power. So I really appreciate that, Blake. I love what you are doing and what you have done. Shout out to your parents who planted seeds in you all of you all, as a matter of fact. I'm going to, because I want to make sure we capture everybody's voices here, I'm going to go ahead and talk to Ethan next to let him introduce himself so we can hear his voice. So can you share a little bit about yourself?
Hi, everyone. My name is Ethan Fertiel, and I'm currently a 10th grade class president at a STEAM school in New York. And in school, I'm on a biomedical pathway where I'm learning about the different parts of the body and how we can help solve new things that are going on with the body. Growing up, I really have had a big enjoyment of philanthropy and being able to help my communities. And right now, what I'm doing is I'm working on 3 different science projects where I'm focusing on smart cities, pollution, and sustainable life in a low-income community. And both these projects follow climate change, and I do a lot of things with soup kitchens, and I've been doing that since I was in the 4th grade. And when I heard about the new 3 hours program, I was really happy to join it, and I was able to learn a lot of history, and I was able to learn about a lot of new things that I didn't understand before, where now if I can go and speak about anything that we've learned in that class, then I could just regurgitate it right back, and I would just enjoy doing that as well. But that's all about me.
Thank you. 3 science. You got lots of science stuff going on. Smart cities. I'm just learning about that as an adult. So you're gonna have to teach me some things. I would love for you to share your thoughts on why youth should learn CRT, Black History and Responsive Philanthropy.
I believe that youth should be learning about critical race theory because a lot of people really know of critical race theory, but they don't really understand what it really is. Critical race theory is a theory created by Derek Bell, Alan Freeman, and others that develop an idea that racism is more than just a personal bias, and it's enrooted inside of all of our laws and our businesses and our society of today. And when we understand that idea that is woven into our laws and the youth are able to understand, that's how we make change. Where people now, you can go anywhere and there's always going to be some sort of different thought because you're not that person. You're not the star front person who's supposed to be quote unquote the best. And just because I have a different skin tone or I look different from you, I don't believe that it should have any effect on who I am in your mind. So if we teach the youth that from a young age, they'll come up understanding that and having a bigger understanding of people in general, which will grow our communities.
Thank you. I have one last question for you right now. If we're looking at what racial equity work you want to do as a responsive philanthropist because of the new 3 Rs, what have, based on the learnings and the family that we have here?
As a responsible philanthropist, I want to work on the way that things are going in America because right now I can walk into a hospital and I can be debated on and I can be said, oh no, this isn't really happening to you just because of the color of my skin. This can happen for many reasons, and I want to work on things like that. I want to work on low-income community sustainability, and I want to be able to give my money and my time to charities that work and believe in the same things that I do and are very responsible. Because from the new 3 Rs, I've really learned that you could be a philanthropist, but being a responsible philanthropist is something else. Because when you're being a philanthropist, you're just giving over your money and you're saying, oh, here, have this, here, take this money. This is so great. But as a responsible philanthropist, you're really coming in and you're putting in that time and putting in that work and learning that face-to-face value and learning life lessons that you can carry on with you and spread to others.
Thank you so very much. You are hitting it on the head. We know that philanthropy and being responsive philanthropists, we've learned that, it's the time, the talent, and the treasure, which leads to the testimony on both sides, both the people and the giver. We're working hand in hand together because that's how we're going to make this world a better place. So thank you for sharing your thoughts and your words. I want to also introduce Sine to share a little bit about himself, and we'll ask him a few questions because this panel is really amazing. These youth are really inspiring. I see inspiring and you all are getting lots of kudos in the chat, just to let you know. But I'm going to pass the mic to Sine.
So hi everybody, my name is Sine Chawla and I became a youth responsive philanthropist at the age of 13 in 2021. I'm also an international citizen, having lived both in India and the United States. At the moment, I currently go to one of the top high schools in New York City, and my favorite subjects in school are history and biology. And also in school, I'm an active member of the leadership for my debate team. And along with that, I'm on the advisory board with my principal, which works to equitize and sort of understand the needs of the student body, especially a student body that's predominantly one made up of minorities, especially in some of the top high schools in America. And along with that, at the moment, I am currently pursuing a career in biomedical engineering, much like many other people you've heard before me. And I'm just very excited to be able to share my story and the way that I'm looking forward to a future with the new 3 Rs and with you today. So.
Thank you for sharing. Can you share why is there so much apprehension, in your opinion, about telling the truth about events in American history?
So, in my opinion, I think that it's just quite simply a fear of being uncomfortable with our own history. I'll say Mississippi, the Mississippi Plan, which was devised by white Southern Democrats in 1875 to suppress the political power of the state's majority Black population with the use of organized violence, isn't included in the high school curriculum. That means it's not included in the classes that I learned about. I learned about all these things in American history, all these things about the world, but important stuff like that seems to be erased and left out. And that's just one example. All across the country, this legacy of oppression and exploitation that has built this country has stayed hidden behind the opaque curtain of denial. And for me, that's dangerous. These incomplete histories leave me and other children walking out of their classrooms not enlightened, but unequipped to confront the systemic racism in our society without the perspective, knowledge, and wisdom that true history can offer. That's why I love it so much. It is exactly that which allows systemic inequality to persist in our society. We are quite simply putting a band-aid on a bullet hole. No matter how much we try and avoid the tough conversations about our nation's history, they are essential to the pursuit of a more equitable nation. And I think by teaching critical race theory, we give our students the right to an honest education and accordingly provide a framework for them to finally be able to confront the uncomfortable discussions in their daily lives that are essential to curbing racism and bigotry, both inside the classroom and outside of it. I think only then can we finally heal from the centuries-old scars that American history has sort of left us.
That is amazing. You are a phenomenal speaker, as are all the panelists. And as we talk about critical race theory, why is it so important that we teach it? In all of the education system?
So I want to walk you guys through a little bit of a story of my own. Growing up in India, education always became everything. I was taught that learning and absorbing information was one of the most valuable things I could do, not only as a student, but also as a human being. So when I moved to the US in 2016, I was amazed by the amount of knowledge that was available at my fingertips. I could walk into a library 2 minutes down the road on 59th Street and read about anything in any subject. More specifically, I always found myself drawn to history books, as I mentioned before. Reading about the great conquests of Alexander the Great or the Renaissance fascinated me beyond belief. And in my 10-year-old mind, world history started in Asia and ended in Europe. What could I do? That was basically all that I knew. But when I joined the new 3Rs in 2021, that little view of the world around me was flipped on its head. All of a sudden, I was learning about the Little Rock Nine, Mansa Musa, and the Black Panther Party. And sitting in those classes, I realized just how little I knew. More than that, I realized how little the world knew around me. Here you had great kings, groundbreaking achievements, and unshakable bravery that was all erased from history, forgotten by all but some. I felt betrayed in that moment by the education that I had cherished for so long. Yet, I also felt inspired. I began to become more informed about the world around me with the new 3Rs and look forward to the monthly meetings we have. That means that now I want to dedicate myself to giving more students and young people that same opportunity. The reason why I think it's essential for us to teach our youth about the Black history that has been forgotten for so long is not only because we need to celebrate the great Black leaders of our world, past and present, but because we need to inspire the leaders of our future. Exploring a more complete and accurate understanding of our local past while gaining insights applicable to our national history as a whole empowers students to contribute more fully to their local community. And that community comes to understand itself better. Even more than that, our future generations can develop their own voices and recognize their potential for leadership through steering relevant discussions of race, class, and democracy, just like my fellow panelists have already showed you.
Thank you. I know we learn a lot in New3Rs, and there's an amazing team that works behind the scenes and make sure that we get all of this great information. We talked a little bit about environmental racism. How does environmental issues disproportionately impact communities with high poverty?
So I think the important thing to note that, Ethan and Blake and Amira brought up is that racism in this country is just as implicit as it is explicit. And as a result of centuries of oppression in the United States, bias has become rooted in our systems of governance, and society. Thus, communities of color are disproportionately forced to grapple with health hazards through policies and practices that force them to live close to sources of toxic waste such as sewage works, mines, landfills, power stations, and major roads. And I think what's important about this is that much of America doesn't know about it. As a result, these communities suffer greater rates of health problems. For example, a study in 2007 found race was more important than socioeconomic status in predicting the location of the nation's commercial hazardous waste facilities. I'm just going to let that sink in because that's incredibly powerful. It proved that Black children were 5 times more likely to have lead poisoning from proximity to waste than white children. Even Black Americans making $60,000 a year or more were more likely to live in polluted areas than their white counterparts that lived on public assistance. What's worse, even indigenous populations often suffer from environmental racism as well. In the US, Native American communities continue to be exposed to large amounts of nuclear and other hazardous waste as corporations take advantage of weaker ecological laws on native land. For example, decades of uranium mining on the land of the Najavo tribe has caused long-standing problems in the community, and from 1951 to 1971, the US government itself performed a massive human medical experiment on 4,000 Najavo uranium miners, allowing them to work without informing them of the effects of radiation. The effects of such were predictable: elevated levels of lung cancer and other diseases from breathing in radon. Yet these communities lack the resources to raise awareness or fight a costly legal battle, which are often available to wealthier white communities. This continues the mistreatments against people of color that has plagued our country for so long in yet another facet of American life. And I think that's why it's important that we begin on a path of environmental justice that serves to give these communities a voice.
Thank you so much. Environmental justice is really important, and working hand in hand with responsive philanthropy. How do you see them working together?
So I will, of course, say that though I may have listed many, sort of disheartening things, and it may seem like the United States is heading in the wrong direction, I will remind you that hope should not be lost. Just as they always have in history, people of color and young philanthropists now continue to donate their time, talent, and treasure, no matter how much society tries to silence them. And I think environmental justice is just one facet of that. It works to raise the voices of vulnerable populations through academic studies, media pressure campaigns, and public activism. Something as small as just writing a blog on a website, or telling your friends about it, or posting something on social media, has the ability to create ripples across, social constructs and communities that I think have long-standing positive effects. Grassroots movements use social media, civil disobedience, and marches to make their views heard. And it is through these these measures that policymakers and the public are given no choice but to acknowledge the issues that face low-income communities and move towards progress. And after all, this fight must be fought to achieve our perfect union and our pursuit of that. And I think communities like this, discussions like this, the ability to be able to get up here and give you my voice today, just as the other panelists have, is the right direction. And I think it's the right sort of small step that we need to snowball into greater change.
Thank you. You all have had the opportunity to hear some just amazing panelists. I personally am inspired every time I get the opportunity to hear from them, and hear, why this is actually important, what it is necessary for us to do in the world. But I want to go back to Blake and ask him one question before we kick it over to the boss lady. What do you enjoy most about the New 3Rs community and the diverse families?
Well, I admire the diversity because it isn't just Black people there to learn about Black history and speak on it. There are many religions and people, no matter what race or background, that are learning Black history with us and talking about racism. And that's something you need for these tough conversations that unite all of us. And also for others, recognize that there's more to a Black person's life than their enslavement. It's something so important, and I hope that more people join us in the fight for unity and racial justice. For example, after the heartbreaking and shattering events of George Floyd, we saw the people united. We saw people of different races holding hands and protesting together. We saw people putting the time in to sign petitions and boycott. We saw people standing outside the court and waiting for justice to be served. This is what we need to see. Everyone needs to march and boycott against hate. I also saw this with the Black Panther Party, how they spread their influence towards fellow citizens. People understood their war cries, and they continue to go bigger by uniting everyone and fighting for economic and political equality. The Black Panther Party became well known for providing access to children and society while breaking down barriers and preventing acts of police brutality. This is why I love the diversity of the New 3Rs. It's not only Black people talking about racism. It makes me feel heard by those that aren't Black. As a Black male myself, just seeing others that don't look like me join on these tough topics is so inspiring, since they give different insights and talk about their own sadness seeing racism. It's such an amazing feeling for someone to hear you and understand you, even if you think that they won't, because they haven't lived through the exact pain. But your cries can be heard, and they could tell their stories too. My cries can be heard by people who don't look like me, and I know they understand. And I know that they understand me too.
Thank you. I think that sums up the love and the family that I feel when I get to join the New 3Rs and share a little bit about giving circles. As these students, these young responsive philanthropists are charting their own course. They are changing the world, you all. They are doing amazing things. As you've heard from them, they are doing amazing things outside of this work. And yet and still, they take the time to do it now. Where some of us are a little older, maybe a little wiser, maybe not. And maybe we haven't thought about how all the things that they've been able to share with us in these few minutes. I want to pass it over to the founder to share a little bit more about the New 3Rs and close us out tonight. It's been a pleasure to be in this space with you all. I hope that you all get amazing nuggets of information and will continue to be engaged with the New 3Rs, because they are a wonderful group of students that are literally changing the world. So I'm turning it over.
So the New 3Rs, we are a family program, and I encourage you to consider joining us. You don't have to be a parent. You can enroll with a niece or with a cousin who's between 6th grade and 10th grade. You've heard the voices of our children, and so I'm hoping that you will spread the word about the impact of our work. Visit our website at new3rs.org. Subscribe to our Black History newsletter because it's free. And if you're interested in enrolling, you can either text me or you can email me at 929-275-6269. And Amira, can you close us out?
Yes, so if responsive philanthropy for Black people on a global scale is something that resonates with you, please enroll your family in the New 3Rs.
That's a wrap, people. It's a great way to end, right? Great way to end the evening of We Give Summit with the youth. Thank you so, so very much. Thank you, We Give Summit and Philanthropy Together and the New 3Rs for having us be able to join the conversation and join the family of collective givers in the world. Everybody have a great night.
Thank you so much, Joy. Thank you to everyone on this panel today. Amira, Blake, Ethan, Sine, Joy, Dr. Ansari. It was amazing hearing you speak. As Joy said, you all really are changing the world. You are an inspiration, you're inspiring, you're the future. So thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and knowledge with us today, and keep up the good work. In the next few days, this session will be, the recording will be available. So share it with people who weren't able to come. I think this is really inspiring. I want to announce the winner of today's raffle. It is Evans Rumbold. So Evans, congratulations. Keep an eye out for an email from our team. We'll be following up shortly. And thank you again to everyone for joining us today. We look forward to seeing you tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific time for Stronger from Our Differences, Learning from One Another, where we'll hear from a number of different collaboratives. And then that session will be followed by Giving Circles and the Opportunities to Become an Anti-Racist Philanthropist, a conversation with Dr. Ibram X. Kendi and Jacqueline Martinez-Garcel at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific time. And before you go, to close us out, we want you to enjoy some closing entertainment by youth poet Ji-Rae Dung from Youth Speaks, a leading presenter of spoken word performance, education, and youth development programs. Ji-Rae will be performing This Body Is Not a Virus. They are a queer Asian American writer and filmmaker born and raised in San Gabriel Valley. Their words have appeared on in The Guardian, The Washington Post, Teen Vogue, NPR, The LA Times, and more. So we're really excited and honored to have them here with us today. And with that, I'll hand it over to Ji-Rae.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. This body is not a virus, after Fatima Ashgar. I'm dreaming of new futures where I claim the women who work the massage parlors, the fathers and mothers who leave behind continents, then pass down languages to their children. I'm blessing us gays, theys, and bays who kiss in open streets or shuttered behind closed doors. I'm thanking my fight over the check aunties and uncles who drop off secondhand clothes and homegrown fruit. I call my people borderless when friends fly away and green cards fail to grow on trees. I'm here for the tragedy when another life is taken, and when no metaphors can cup the loss. I pray for words to hold us all. I pray words will never be enough. My mouth has been the exit wound of my family tree. I'm asking you to make it your altar, an offering of love and laughter to tide us through the storm and calm. The revolution in our hearts demands our pause. Stop dredging up those kingdoms and let your joy do the work. Thank you.